In the velvet darkness between stars, where light takes centuries to travel, a peaceful order had reigned for over 600 years. The Galactic Harmony Collective kept tranquility across 14,000 worlds. War was just a horror story, a myth from a barbaric past. Violence had been negotiated away, replaced by dialogue and understanding. But on this particular rotation, as observer Quinzel Vorn's triple-lidded eyes scanned his monitor, that ancient peace began to crack. Quinzel was a Methelian, his crystalline skin refracting the soft blue light of his workstation. In 3 decades at Border Station Apex 14, nothing unexpected had ever happened. Ships announced themselves. Traders followed designated routes. The universe operated by rules everyone respected. Until now, the sensor array registered something impossible. A massive energy signature was approaching from the forbidden zones, those dark sectors of space where no civilized species ventured. The readings made no sense. The heat alone should have melted any known hull material. Quinzel's forefingers trembled as he activated the emergency protocol. His secondary heart, which only beat during extreme stress, began to thrum for the first time in years. He opened a priority channel to Central Harmony Command. This is Border Station Apex 14. Unknown contact approaching from Sector 9-7. No identification beacon. No response to standard queries. Energy profile unlike anything in our databases. Requesting immediate assistance. The response came within moments. When Command replied that quickly, it was serious. Station 14. Maintain distance and continue observation. Do not attempt approach or engagement. The Council of Voices is being convened. Stand by for diplomatic fleet deployment. Quinzel turned back to his screens, watching the mysterious vessel carve through space like a knife through silk. It was moving fast, far faster than any civilian transport. Its trajectory was precise, purposeful. This was not a lost explorer. This was something that knew exactly where it was going. 3 solar rotations later, Mediator Thexan Brightwing stood in the sphere of consensus, the weight of history on her feathered shoulders. She was a Varian. Her species evolved from bird-like ancestors. Her people were natural diplomats, their melodious voices capable of expressing nuances others struggled to articulate. The sphere was the heart of collective governance, a crystal dome where representatives from 43 species gathered. Violence was not just avoided. It was considered a failure of imagination. High Voice Meriton, a Centauri whose gelatinous form shifted colors with his emotions, addressed the assembly. His telepathic projection touched every mind. The vessel continues deeper into our territory. All communication attempts have failed. We must decide our response, but we must do so with wisdom and care. Send a military response, rumbled Defense Coordinator Brakthos, one of the stone-eyed people. This intruder shows contempt for our sovereignty. We must demonstrate strength. Strength without understanding is merely violence, Thexan replied, her voice carrying calming harmonics. We know nothing of this ship's origins or intentions. Perhaps their communication systems are incompatible. Perhaps they are wounded, unable to respond. We cannot assume hostility where ignorance might explain everything. Around the sphere, heads nodded. The collective was built on the principle that every conflict held the seeds of resolution. I propose a diplomatic mission, Thexan continued. 15 vessels representing multiple species. We approach with all weapons disabled, shields at minimum. We demonstrate peace through action, not just words. Show them we offer friendship, not threat. The vote was swift and nearly unanimous. Violence was always the failure option, never the first choice. Throughout known space, this approach had succeeded for centuries. Thexan left the sphere confident. She had negotiated treaties between species who couldn't breathe the same air. She had found common ground between predators and prey. This would be a challenge, but not impossible. The diplomatic fleet assembled within 2 rotations. 15 ships, each beautiful, each representing the best of its species' art and engineering. They were not warships. Their hulls were painted with symbols of welcome in 43 languages. Their crews were scholars, linguists, and peacemakers. Thexan stood on the bridge of the lead vessel. The gentle approach. The ship's captain, a Methalian named Porthan Glass-Song, coordinated their movements with quiet efficiency. "We are approaching sensor range of the unknown vessel, Mediator," Porthan reported. "Shall I begin first contact protocols?" "All frequencies, all methods," Thexan confirmed. "Mathematical sequences, visual representations of peace, music, art, everything we have. Someone is listening. We just need to find the right language." For hours they tried. Prime numbers, images of species standing together, broadcasts in every known tongue. The mysterious ship remained silent, a blade of metal cutting through the dark. Then they drew close enough for detailed scans, and Nexon's confidence began to waver. "Mediator," said Science Officer Yenra Soft-Touch, her feline features drawn with concern. "I am analyzing the vessel's hull structure. This is disturbing." Thexan moved to the holographic display. The unknown ship materialized before her. It was enormous, nearly 4 kilometers long, shaped like a weapon forged for a giant. But what made her breathing quicken was the condition of that hull. It was scarred, burned, patched with at least 7 different types of metal. Entire sections had been rebuilt, some multiple times. The armor plating showed impact craters from weapons fire, energy-scoring blackened hull segments. This was not a ship that had been in 1 or 2 battles. This vessel had been fighting for years, maybe decades. "What species creates something like this?" Porthan whispered. "One that expects war," Thexan answered, and for the first time in her career, she felt genuine fear. Before anyone could respond, every warning system on the bridge erupted. Tactical Officer Brennix shouted over the chaos. "They are targeting us. Multiple weapon locks. All our ships are being painted by their scanning arrays." The view screen blazed with sudden light. The mysterious warship, dormant until this moment, came alive like a predator. Energy crackled along its hull. Weapon ports opened, dozens of them, more than Thexan had ever seen on a single vessel. Targeting beams swept across the diplomatic fleet with cold precision. "Raise shields, evasive pattern Delta," Porthan commanded. "Wait," Thexan's voice cut through the panic. "We came here in peace. They are being cautious. Do not make any aggressive movements. Keep shields at minimum. We trust in the power of our intentions." The crew looked at her, their expressions ranging from hope to terror. The diplomatic fleet hung in space, vulnerable and exposed, while the massive warship held them in its sights. 15 ships filled with the best minds of the collective, suspended between peace and annihilation, waiting to see if 600 cycles of civilization meant anything at all to whoever commanded that battle-scarred vessel. In that endless moment, as targeting systems hummed and weapons charged, Thexan Brightwing realized something profound and terrible. They had assumed peace was the natural state of all intelligent life. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tailies from the far reaches of space. See you next time. The standoff lasted exactly 117 seconds, though to Thexan it felt like a lifetime. Her wing feathers were rigid with tension, every instinct screaming at her to order defensive measures. But she had built her career on trust, on the belief that peaceful intentions could bridge any divide. She would not abandon that belief now, even staring down the barrels of more weapons than she had ever seen in her life. Then something changed. A new signal cut through the static, powerful enough to override every communication system on all 15 ships simultaneously. It was not a hail. It was not a greeting. It was a transmission so raw and forceful that it made the bridge lights flicker. "Unknown vessels, You are in violation of quarantine protocols. State your origin, purpose, and authority level immediately. You have 30 seconds to comply before we classify you as hostile. This is your only warning. The voice was harsh, mechanical, translated through systems that turned organic speech into something cold and efficient. But beneath that digital layer, Thexan heard something that made her stomach twist with an emotion she could not name. It was not anger. It was not fear. It was something older, something forged in fires that the collective had forgotten existed. It was the voice of someone who had seen too much death. Porthan looked at Thexan, his crystalline face reflecting her own uncertainty. First contact protocols had procedures for hostile encounters, but they were theoretical, academic exercises that no living diplomat had ever needed to use. The collective had not faced genuine military aggression in living memory. Thexan activated her own communication system, forcing her voice to remain calm and melodious despite her racing heart. Unknown vessel, I am Mediator Thexan Brightwing of the Galactic Harmony Collective. We are a diplomatic fleet representing 43 species. We come in peace, seeking only to establish communication and understanding. We mean you no harm. We ask only for dialogue, silence. 10 seconds. 20, 30. Then the voice returned, but this time it was different. The mechanical quality faded slightly, revealing something organic beneath, something exhausted. Diplomatic Fleet. Galactic Harmony Collective. The words were spoken slowly, as if testing their weight. You have no idea where you are, do you? No idea what you have just flown into. We are in collective space, Thexan replied. You are the ones who have entered our territory without announcement or permission. We only wish to understand your presence here. Another pause. Then, unexpectedly, a sound came through the transmission that made every crew member freeze. It was laughter, but there was no joy in it. It was the bitter amusement of someone who had heard a joke too dark to be funny. Your territory. Your peaceful territory. The voice was heavy with something between pity and disbelief. Tell me, Mediator Thexan Brightwing, when was the last time your collective fought a real war? Not a ceremonial dispute. Not a negotiated conflict. A real war where millions died and whole worlds burned. Thexan's voice faltered for the first time. We have not engaged in large-scale warfare for nearly 600 cycles. We have evolved beyond such barbarism. We resolve our differences through dialogue and understanding. 600 cycles. The voice repeated the number like a prayer or a curse. 600 cycles of peace while the rest of the galaxy burned. Congratulations, Mediator. You found the one safe corner of space where the real monsters did not roam. I almost envy you. Science Officer Yenra's console began chiming urgently. She studied her screens, her feline features drawing tight with confusion. Mediator, I'm detecting something on long-range sensors. Multiple something. Behind the unknown vessel, at least 30 light minutes out. They are massive. Organic signatures unlike anything in our databases. And they are coming this way. The voice from the warship cut through before Thexan could respond. Those would be the reason I am here. Those would be the reason we have been fighting for 23 years. Those would be the reason your 600 cycles of peace are about to end. A heavy sigh carried through the transmission. Stand by for visual data transfer. You deserve to know what's coming for you. The main view screen flickered and changed. The image that appeared made Thexan's breathing stop entirely. They were creatures, but calling them that felt inadequate. They were massive beyond comprehension, each one easily the size of a small moon. Their bodies were not built, they were grown. Organic armor plates, covering flesh that pulsed with bioluminescent light. Tentacles that could wrap around planets. Maws that could swallow fleets. They moved through space as if vacuum were water, propelling themselves with organs that should not have functioned outside of atmosphere. We call them the Devourers, the voice explained with clinical detachment. No one knows where they came from. Maybe they were always here, sleeping in the dark spaces between galaxies. Maybe they were created by some long-dead species as a weapon that got loose. It doesn't matter. What matters is they eat. Worlds, stations, ships, anything with organic material. They break it down, consume it, grow larger and more numerous. They have been spreading through the galaxy for over a century. Your peaceful collective exists only because you are too far from the initial outbreak. Thexan found her voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. How many worlds have fallen to them? We stopped counting at 4,000. The words hit like physical blows. Could be twice that by now. Entire civilizations gone. Billions of lives. And the devourers keep coming, keep breeding, keep consuming. We have been fighting a losing war to slow them down, to buy time for evacuation, to find some way to stop them. That is why we are here. That is why our ship looks like it has been through hell. Because it has. Because we have. Defense Coordinator Brakthos, who had joined the fleet over subspace communication, spoke up. His voice was steady but strained. Who are you? What species fights a war like this? Why have we never heard of you or these creatures? Another pause. When the voice returned, it carried a weight of pain so profound that even across the communication void, Thexan could feel it. We are the survivors, the remnants of what used to be called the Terran Federation. Our species' name is human, though most of us stopped caring about such distinctions years ago. We fight because we are good at it, because someone has to, and because we have nowhere left to run. As for why you never heard of us, that is simple. We were not part of your collective. We evolved in a different sector, built our own civilization, made our own mistakes. When the devourers came, we learned to fight or die. Most of us chose to die anyway, but a few of us learned to fight well enough to matter. The warship's weapon system suddenly powered down. The targeting beams disappeared. On Nexan's screens, she watched as the massive vessel's aggressive posture relaxed into something that looked almost like resignation. Listen carefully, Mediator, the human voice continued. The swarm behind me is just a scouting force. 30 organisms. Nothing compared to what's coming. In approximately 6 solar rotations, a full hive cluster will arrive in this region. We are talking about 3,000 devourers, maybe more. They will strip every world in this sector clean. Your collective, your 43 species, your 600 cycles of peace, none of it will matter. They do not negotiate. They do not communicate. They eat. Porthan spoke up, his voice shaking slightly. What do you intend to do? What we always do. Fight, bleed, buy time. The human paused. This vessel is the Relentless Purpose, one of the last capital ships of the Terran Defensive Fleet. We have been tracking this swarm for 2 months, harassing it, destroying scouts, trying to slow its advance toward populated sectors. We did not know your collective was here. We did not know anyone was here. If we had, we might have tried to warn you sooner. Maybe. Thexan felt her world tilting. Everything she had believed about the galaxy, about the nature of civilization and progress, was crumbling. She thought of the sphere of consensus, of the careful debates and philosophical discussions. She thought of the generations who had never known war, who had forgotten what it looked like. What can we do? She asked the question that mattered most. The human was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried something unexpected, the faintest glimmer of hope. You can run. Evacuate your worlds in this sector. Pull back everything that moves to safer regions. You have 6 rotations. If you start now, if you do not waste time debating or voting, you might save millions of lives. Another pause. Or you can help us fight. But I warn you, Mediator, your ships are not built for this kind of war. Your weapons are designed to wound, not kill. Your tactics assume rational opponents who fear death. The devourers fear nothing, because they barely think at all. They are hunger given form. Thexan looked around her bridge. She saw fear in every face, fear and confusion, and the beginning of something else. Understanding, perhaps. Or maybe just the first stirrings of survival instinct, waking after 6 centuries of sleep. "We must contact the council," she said finally. "They must know what is coming. They must prepare. Do it quickly," the human responded. "And mediator? When you speak to your council, tell them something for me. Tell them that peace is not the natural state of the universe. Peace is a garden that must be defended against the wilderness. Your collective built a beautiful garden, but you forgot that gardens need walls, and someone willing to stand on those walls. You are about to remember." The transmission ended, leaving the diplomatic fleet hanging in space between the scarred human warship and the approaching horror. Thexan Brightwing, who had never raised her voice in anger, who had negotiated a dozen impossible treaties, who believed in the power of words above all, stared at the viewscreen and realized that her life as work had been possible only because someone else had been fighting the monsters in the dark. She opened a priority channel to the sphere of consensus. Her voice steadied despite the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. "Council, this is Mediator Thexan. I need to speak to every representative immediately. What I have to tell you will change everything." The sphere of consensus had never been so silent. 43 species, thousands of representatives connected through holographic projection and telepathic link, all frozen in a collective moment of horrified understanding. Mediator Thexan's report had just stripped away centuries of comfortable assumptions, leaving behind only the raw, terrifying truth of their situation. High Voice Meriden's form, usually a vibrant tapestry of colors, had gone completely gray, the color of shock for his species. His telepathic voice, normally so controlled and gentle, trembled as it touched every mind present. 6 rotations. "You are certain of this timeline?" The human commander was very specific. Thexan replied from the bridge of her ship, the gentle approach. "The Devourer Hive cluster will arrive in this sector within 6 solar rotations. We have that long to evacuate or prepare defenses." "Perhaps both. Prepare defenses?" Defense Coordinator Brakthos let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a growl. "With what? Our ceremonial patrol ships? Our conflict resolution vessels designed to fire warning shots? We have not built a true warship in 500 cycles. We would not even know where to begin." Panic began to ripple through the assembly. Voices rose in fear and confusion. Some demanded immediate evacuation of all border worlds. Others insisted this must be some elaborate deception. A few simply sat in stunned silence, unable to process the scale of the threat. Thexan watched it all unfold with a heavy heart. This was the moment everything changed. The moment innocence died and hard choices had to be made. How do you tell an entire civilization that the universe they knew was ending? There is another option. The voice came from an unexpected source. Counselor Vexith, representative of the Quiet Ones, a species of philosophers that rarely spoke. The humans. They have been fighting these creatures for over 2 decades. They know how to survive. Perhaps instead of standing alone, we should stand with them. Stand with warriors? Speaker Thrin of the Peaceful Path spoke up, her voice filled with distaste. "We built the collective specifically to move beyond violence. To ally with a species that has devoted itself to war would be to abandon everything we believe in. What good are our beliefs if we are all dead?" Brakthos rumbled. "The Quiet Ones speak truth. We have no experience with this kind of threat. The humans do. Pride will not save us. Only practical action will." A new feeling stirred in Thexan's chest. It was not fear or anger. It was purpose. For all her life, she had built bridges between minds. This would be the greatest bridge of all. "Council," she said, her melodious voice cutting through the chaos. "I have spoken with the human commander. They did not come to our space seeking conquest. They came chasing a threat so terrible that they have sacrificed everything to fight it. Their ship bears the scars of countless battles fought not for glory, but for survival. For life itself. She paused, letting her words settle. The humans offered us a choice, run or fight. But I believe there is a third option. We can learn. We can adapt. We can take what the humans have learned through terrible sacrifice and use it to protect what we have built. Not by abandoning our principles, but by understanding that peace must sometimes be defended. High-voiced Meriden's color began to shift, moving from gray to a thoughtful blue. You propose an alliance, a partnership. I propose we remember what we almost forgot, Thexan replied. That civilization is not natural. That peace is not the default state of existence. We have been blessed with harmony, not because the universe is kind, but because we were fortunate. That safety is ending. We can either face that truth or pretend it does not exist until the devourers prove otherwise. Around the sphere, fear was transforming into something else. Determination, understanding. The survival instinct, dormant for so long, was finally waking. What do you need from us, mediator? Meriden asked. Time, Thexan answered, and trust. Let me return to the human vessel. Let me learn what we face. Then we can make informed decisions. We have 6 rotations. Let us not waste them. The vote passed. Thexan opened a direct channel to the human warship, the relentless purpose. Human vessel, this is Mediator Thexan Brightwing. I request permission to come aboard. I believe it is time we spoke face to face. The response came quickly, tinged with surprise. Permission granted, Mediator. Transmitting docking coordinates. Fair warning, our ship was not designed for diplomatic visits. It is a working warship. I think that is exactly what we need to see, Thexan replied. 2 hours later, she stepped through the airlock and into a world utterly unlike anything in her experience. The corridors were narrow, utilitarian, lit by harsh white lights. The walls were scarred metal, covered with warning labels in angular human script. Everything was built for function over form, efficiency over aesthetics. And everywhere, there were signs of wear, of a ship pushed far beyond its limits that somehow kept flying. Her escort was a young soldier in dented armor, his eyes holding the weariness of a veteran. This way, Mediator, he said, his voice polite but clipped. Commander Takashi is waiting in the strategy center. They walked through corridors humming with purposeful activity. Human crew members moved with efficient speed, calling out status reports. Thexan noticed many were young, far younger than she would have expected. Then she saw it, a memorial wall covered with thousands of names. The dead, she realized. These humans carried their losses with them. The strategy center was a war room, dominated by holographic displays showing the approaching devourer swarm. 3 humans stood around a central table. They were tired, not just physically exhausted, but a deeper weariness that came from fighting too long with too little hope. A central figure stepped forward. His face was scarred, his hair graying at the temples, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. Commander Takeshi Yamamoto, he said, extending his hand. Thank you for coming, Mediator. Thexan carefully clasped his hand, noting the calluses and the strength in his grip. Thank you for being honest with us, Commander. Takeshi gestured to the displays. Honesty is all we have left. Lies do not stop the devourers. Pretty words do not save worlds. Only action matters now. He showed her the approaching swarm in terrible detail. Each signal is a devourer organism. The small ones are the size of your largest ships. The big ones are the size of moons. They adapt. Every time we find a new weapon, they evolve to counter it within weeks. Another officer, a woman with burn scars across her face, spoke up. We have been fighting them for 23 years. We lost 60% of our fleet. Earth itself fell 6 years ago. We could not save it. Her voice cracked slightly. But we learned. We became very good at killing these things. Just not good enough to win. Then why keep fighting? Thexan asked softly. Takeshi looked at her, and in his eyes she saw the soul of humanity. Because someone has to. Because every day we delay them is another day for refugees to escape. Every devourer we kill is one that will not consume another world. We fight because if we stop, millions more will die. He smiled, a tired but genuine expression. Besides, we are humans. Stubborn is practically our species' motto. The third officer brought up new displays. The swarm approaching your sector is relatively small. 3,000 organisms. For your collective, with no combat experience, it would be an extinction event. Unless we help you, Takeshi continued. Unless we share what we know, teach you how to fight. Many of your people will die learning lessons we learned in blood. But some of you will survive. Thexan's heart was breaking and reforming at the same time. This was what the collective had forgotten. That survival was not guaranteed. That civilization was precious precisely because it was fragile. What do you need from us? She asked. Everything, Takeshi said. Ships, which we can retrofit. Personnel willing to learn. Manufacturing capacity. Most importantly, we need your trust. To understand that we are not trying to turn you into killers, but into survivors. Standing among these scarred, exhausted humans, Thexan felt an unexpected bloom of hope. Not naive hope, but the hard-earned hope of those who had looked into the abyss and refused to blink. These humans had lost everything, yet here they stood, still fighting, still willing to help strangers. Commander, Thexan said, her voice clear and strong. Teach me, show me what you know, and I will carry that knowledge back to my people. Takeshi nodded slowly, respect in his eyes. It will change you, mediator? Are you certain? Thexan thought of the garden her civilization had built, lovely and fragile and worth defending. I am certain, she said. Because someone has to stand on the walls. The human commander extended his hand again. This time, it felt less like a greeting and more like a promise. Then let us begin, Takeshi said. We have 6 rotations to turn diplomats into defenders. Not much time, but we will make it enough. We always do. As Thexan prepared for her first tactical briefing, she sent one final message back to her people. The humans taught me something today. Peace is not weakness, and defending what we love is not the same as becoming what we hate. We can remain who we are while learning to survive. Begin the preparations. Together, we will face what comes. In the cold mathematics of war, in the tired but unbroken faces of human soldiers, mediator Thexan Brightwing found a truth her peaceful civilization had long forgotten. Sometimes, the greatest act of peace is knowing when to fight.